Briefing, the inquiry and the review briefings are set down for consideration. The Parliament bill is set down for further... I'm sorry, I've left a page here. My apologies. Call on oral... There are two bills, sorry. The clerk has been informed of the introduction of two bills.
Deepfake Digital Harm and Exploitation Bill, introduction. Social Media Age-Restricted Users Bill, introduction.
Those bills are set down for first reading. The House now comes to oral questions. The first, the name of Tiana Tuiono.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Internal Affairs and reads, how is the government ensuring that New Zealand's firefighters are properly equipped and resourced to safely respond to fires happening across Aotearoa recently?
The Honourable David Seymour.
On behalf of the Minister of Internal Affairs, I answered a near identical question at great length yesterday, and I would like to refer the member to those answers. I'd also like to give thanks to the work of Fire and Emergency New Zealand at this very difficult time, with several areas under a state of emergency with fires and severe weather. Their work is always invaluable and deeply valued by New Zealanders on a day like today.
Supplementary. Are firefighters correct when they say they have to work with equipment that consistently breaks down with no fleet replacement strategy and are right now across the country putting their safety at risk, protecting our communities from severe weather?
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Internal Affairs, I don't believe that statement is correct. The government in the last 2 years has seen FENZ introduce an asset management plan which had not been put in place for some reason between 2017 and 2023 after FENZ was formed from the voluntary and professional wings of New Zealand's firefighting. The replacement schedule for fire appliances I traversed in detail yesterday, but the government currently has, I believe, 78 appliances on order. They tend to take 18 to 24 months to deliver because they're highly specialised equipment. 5 of those are aerial. In total, FENZ is spending around 20 to 25 million each year on upgrading fire appliances.
Supplementary. Is it correct that in the past year, the fire truck appliance servicing provider has done 446 emergency call-outs, more than one a day, due to breakdowns of the ageing fleet?
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Internal Affairs, I don't have verification of that exact figure in front of me, but it may well be true. There are thousands of fire appliances in New Zealand, and of course, if there was to be one call out for a breakdown each day, then that's something perhaps the member could imagine.
Supplementary. Is it correct that the state of the fire appliance is dire and failing, leaving firefighters stranded on the way to calls, at station or even at incident without water while internal firefighting?
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Internal Affairs, no, that characterisation is not correct. I've been advised that, for example, there has only been one recent breakdown which led to a 2-minute delay in getting to a fire. That's in the past several months at least. So I think the characterisation of routine breakdowns in danger is simply not sustainable. I do note that due to current industrial negotiations, there appears to be a concerted campaign by some in the fire service, and particularly the PFU, to try and emphasise any incident and present it as being routine, when in fact that characterisation is not true. Is that it?
Question number 2, the Honourable Carmel Cipollone.
To the Prime Minister, does he stand by all his government's statements and actions?
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable David Seymour.
Mr Speaker, yes, and I would particularly like to reference the efforts of our Minister for Children, Karen Chua, in improving the safety of children in residence. That has come down 14% in the last 2 years. It's the first time that there has been a reduction of harm to children in state care, as we understand it, in the country's history. That is really quite an achievement, and a poignant one, in the wake of the Royal Commission, which laid down laid bare the history of brutality that has affected so many people and damaged them for life. This is very good news, and it has come because of a precise and deliberate set of actions by the Minister to improve the quality of staffing, to require staff to wear uniforms, to crack down on contraband, for example, by requiring staff to have clear bags so that they couldn't smuggle contraband in, by proactively managing behaviour in the sites. All of this has led to a 14% reduction in young people being harmed. That is really fixing what matters and a good example of what the Labour Party should be thinking about.
Supplementary. Does he stand by his statement, quote, "We're ready to meet with the unions at any time," end quote? If so, why is Fire and Emergency New Zealand refusing to turn up to scheduled bargaining with the Professional Firefighters Union?
Mr. Speaker, I certainly do stand by that statement, and I understand that within 10 minutes of me answering a question on behalf of another minister yesterday, the Professional Firefighters Union got back in touch wanting... I did. I was so effective at answering the question, praising these backbone firefighters, that they decided they did want to come back to the table 10 minutes after I answered the question. That's very effective question answering, I have to say.
Supplementary. Why do government board members deserve an 80% pay rise while teachers get an effective pay cut?
Mr. Speaker, the government's intention is that when we have serious large assets, for example, I refer to Pharmac, that is something that spends $2 billion a year nearly on medicines for sick New Zealanders. Now, we want to ensure that the governance, the board of that agency, are paid at a rate that is at least almost comparable to what the same directors would get for private sector companies. And there's a real contradiction for the Labour Party here, is that they want the state to do more. They want more government agencies to do more stuff, to invest in video games, to start sovereign wealth funds, and yet they don't want to pay the people directing these proposed entities, or even the current ones, even nearly as much as directors get in the private sector. That had to be rectified. In relation to teachers, in the last 3 years, there has been a 14.5% increase in pay for teachers. That is a lot more than many of the New Zealanders who are paying the taxes, making arrangements today around the strikes to have someone look after their kids. It's a lot more than they've got lately. And for that reason, the government needs to balance the interests of Kiwis. There needs to be a sense of realism and a connection between those who are paying the taxes and those who are receiving money from the taxpayer.
Supplementary. Why do tobacco companies deserve $300 million while nurses are being offered an effective pay cut?
Mr. Speaker, it is simply a mischaracterisation for the Labour Party to say that tobacco companies have been given $300 million. That simply has not happened. What the government has done is said if there is a nicotine-based product that is safer, that has less impact on people's health and less impact on the health system, then it should be taxed in proportion to the amount of harm done. Now, the opposition know this because when they were in government, they said there should be zero tax on vapes because they too subscribe to the principle, although the problem is they don't know it because they wouldn't know a principle if they tripped over one.
Supplementary. Why is he willing to spend $44,000 on a helicopter trip for his Instagram, the equivalent of 9 months' base salary for the firefighters he is offering an effective pay cut to?
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Prime Minister, this is the problem. You see, the relationship between New Zealand and Australia is one of, if not the most important relationship between two countries anywhere in the world. That's why we have a meeting and actually invest in our relationship between the New Zealand Prime Minister and the Australian Prime Minister. But the Labour Party, what is it? It was for Instagram. You see, that's why they think people do politics, for Instagram. And that is the problem with the Labour Party today. That is why they're over there and we adults are over here.
Supplementary. should New Zealand workers, doctors, nurses, teachers and firefighters accept a pay rise below inflation, yes or no?
Mr Speaker, you'll be, on behalf of the Prime Minister, the Speaker will tell you that you cannot demand yes or no answers. The simple fact is that this government is balancing the needs of New Zealanders as patients, as taxpayers, as public health workers. We have to balance all of these, and the offers that have been put on the table are designed to do that, to bring people together and connect the needs and the means of New Zealanders with the demands and the pressures from union organisers.
How can he complain about doctors, firefighters, nurses and teachers' unions not acting in good faith when he is threatening to limit their ability to strike because they won't settle for pay rises that don't even match inflation?
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Prime Minister, yesterday the Prime Minister was asked about this precise matter and said he was not aware that that's what the government's doing. So again, this is misinformation from the opposition.
Supplementary. Why is he not willing to negotiate with teachers, firefighters and nurses about fair pay, but is willing to negotiate a rates rebate on his $10.5 million mansion?
Well, Mr Speaker, a couple of things about that. First of all, the Prime Minister is absolutely willing to negotiate with the unions. In fact, the government has been saying through the PSC that we are prepared to meet and work through the weekend to get a deal to avoid these strikes. The government is here making the offers, trying to get the public service back to work in order that people can be served and we can make a balanced budget on behalf of New Zealanders for all of our economic future. Now, the comment about the Prime Minister's personal capacity and his personal residence, there's no responsibility for that except to say that there is a tone that if someone's worked hard all their life and done well, they should be dragged down, that they should be embarrassed about their success and having a nice place on Waiheke. Well, actually, on this side of the House, we say that success is a good thing and tall poppy is bad.
I just make the point that bringing members' personal circumstances into the House has not been encouraged in the past, and there are any number of reasons why that would be the case. Certainly, not the least of which is that we come here to represent constituents, not necessarily attack each other. Question number 3, Suze Redmayne.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance. What recent reports has she seen on the economy?
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Nicola Willis.
On Tuesday, Stats NZ released the latest monthly trade figures, which cover imports and exports of goods. This data release shows how well New Zealand's exporters are performing. Seasonally adjusted export values were up 0.9% in September, following increases of 7% in August and 2.2% in July. Taking an annual view, in the year to September, export values were up 13.5% over the previous year. And this, of course, reflects the hard work of Kiwis employed across exporting sectors, which support 1 in 4 jobs.
Supplementary. What types of exports have been doing well?
Mr Speaker, dairy, meat, fruit and wood together make up over half of New Zealand's goods exports. And these figures are something to celebrate, even though Willow Jean Prime seems to disagree. New Zealand has a well-deserved reputation for safe, high-quality food and fibre, and in the year to September, dairy exports were up 23% compared to the same period last year. Meat exports were up 18%, fruit up 33%, and wood up 8%. Stats NZ notes that a standout performer is kiwi fruit, now a $4.5 billion a year industry, up from $2.6 billion just 2 years ago. That is a powerful example of innovation, productivity and global demand delivering real value for New Zealand.
Supplementary. Which export markets have seen an increase?
Well, Mr Speaker, export values have risen across almost all of New Zealand's overseas markets. In the year to September, goods exports to China increased 15%. Those to Australia increased 10% compared to the same period a year ago. And despite higher tariffs, New Zealand goods exports to the United States continue to grow. In the year to September, they were up 8% compared to the previous year, with an increase in meat exports being the main driver.
Supplementary. What does this mean for New Zealand's trade balance?
Well, Mr. Speaker, for the past 30 years, New Zealand has typically recorded an annual goods trade deficit. That is, we import more than we export. This deficit reached its highest levels in 2022 and 2023, peaking at a whopping $17 billion. Since then, it has narrowed considerably. This week's data shows an annual trade deficit of only $2 billion. That improvement is flowing through to the balance of payments. The current account deficit was a record 9% in the year to December 2022. It is now down to 3.7% in the year to June 2025, and further improvement is expected in the September quarter, driven by continuing strong growth in exports. Mr. Speaker, it's always a good day to thank the farmers.
Supplementary. What is the government doing to support the export industry?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the government is doing a lot to help that sector, including with a very ambitious trade agenda. Since coming into government, we've concluded a trade agreement with the Gulf Cooperation Council, signed and entered into force a trade agreement with the United Arab Emirates, expedited early entry into force of the agreement with the European Union, launched formal negotiations with India, and we are pursuing new opportunities across Southeast Asia. New Zealand makes things the world wants to buy, and the government will keep backing hard-working Kiwi exporters.
Excellent.
Question number 4, Dr. Lawrence Sunak.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister of Education, e tōtoko ana ia I ngā kōrero me ngā mahi katoa a tono kāwanatanga.
The Honourable Erica Stamper.
Yes, within the bounds of my ministerial responsibility.
Supplementary.
Look, there is always a lot of noise going on in the House. I will ask, why are you talking while I am? I will ask the Minister to speak more clearly into the microphone but not repeat the answer. Dr. Lawrence Sunak.
Supplementary. Why is she condemning basic requests for decent pay and working conditions when we lose 50% of secondary school teachers in the first 5 years?
I'm sorry, I missed the second part of the question. Could you say it again?
Of course. Supplementary. Why is she condemning basic requests for decent pay and working conditions when we lose 50% of high school teachers in the first 5 years?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the simple answer is we're not.
Supplementary. Does she stand by her statement? We have so many brilliant teachers, and when we back them, we get results. And if so, does she think backing teachers means pitting them and unions against whānau and students?
Well, Mr. Speaker, no. What I have been very clear on is the fact that we have been backing our amazing teachers for the last 18 months with the incredible amount of resource that we have been delivering straight to the front line. The $750 million of learning support that they so desperately had been asking for. The pathways to principalship, which we have recently announced. Mr. Speaker, the fact that we are paying their teacher registration fees, the professional learning and development opportunities that we have been giving them over the last 18 months, tens of millions of dollars worth. We have been at the table, we have delivered good pay offers, but it's a shame that either one of the unions hasn't even bothered to take it to their members. But if they were at the bargaining table, like the PPCBU, there would be a good outcome, but they're not.
Supplementary. Is it backing teachers to have 55%, well over the OECD average of 33%, reporting that their stress is due to keeping up with curriculum or program changes, especially when schools are already unable to properly staff existing subjects?
Well, Mr. Speaker, that's exactly why this week and next week we've been holding the Curriculum Roadshow with hundreds of principals and leaders in venues across the country.
Okay, just a minute. You can't, on the one hand, complain that you can't hear what's being said and then speak over the Minister answering. We hear the rest of the question in silence.
Mr. Speaker, that's why we have been holding curriculum roadshows up and down the country this week with the intent of unpacking the new curriculum, talking about all of the supports and implementation that have been offered to schools and teachers. across the country. And Mr Speaker, it has been going really well. We have been completely packed out. In fact, in Auckland, we are oversubscribed because teachers and principals and leaders of curriculum can see the value in turning up to these roadshows. But what I would say to the unions is the fact that they told principals and teachers to boycott the very thing that was going to provide them the supports that they needed to implement the curriculum is a real shame.
Sorry, are people just perhaps looking for the opportunity to leave early? Because they don't have to. The whip is off right up until 6 o'clock. I'm speaking. Right up until 6 o'clock. So there's no need for any theatrics that might see people asked to leave early.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order.
Mr Speaker, we were trying to abide by your request not to speak during the answer of that minister, but the other side started making noise. So you can expect a little to and fro going on when that occurs, Mr Speaker.
Perhaps I'm a victim of being able to hear better from this ear than I am from that one. Or perhaps the volume from this side is louder than it is from over here. Either way, we'll just conduct ourselves in a much more seemly fashion from this point. Dr. Lawrence Tunan.
Supplementary. Does she think it is fair to teachers who work on average 6.5 hours a week more than the OECD teachers average and just want to do their best for students to say they're pulling a stunt by going on strike?
Mr Speaker, as I've already said, we are backing our teachers by making sure that they have the resources and the supports that they need to implement the new curriculum and to have more supports in the classroom when it comes to learning support. Teachers have been asking us and previous governments for a really long time to help reduce the workload on them. That's exactly what we've been doing with curriculum reforms, with maths books and textbooks being delivered into classrooms, with $750 million worth of learning support delivered into classrooms. Not everything is delivered through collective bargaining. Sometimes you get a government who listens to teachers and principals on the front line and delivers for them in other ways, which is exactly what we have done.
Question number 5, Tam Bidwar.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Transport and asks, what announcements has he made about the Bikes in Schools program?
The Honourable Chris Bishop.
Mr Speaker, I was thrilled to announce last week at Wilford School in Petone the government's made a new $3.5 million funding commitment to ensure the Bikes in Schools program can go from strength to strength. Bikes in Schools was first funded in 2010. It's a great program, provides opportunities for primary and intermediate school kids to learn the basics of riding a bike safely, and it's fantastic to see this program rolling out around the country once again.
Supplementary. What will this new money go towards?
Mr Speaker, $3.5 million has been confirmed from NZTA from the National Road Safety Promotion Program. It supports the Bike on New Zealand Charitable Trust, and basically, Mr Speaker, it builds bike tracks in schools, provides bikes and helmets for students, enables kids to learn how to ride a bike safely during the school day, and of course outside of school hours. I'm informed, Mr Speaker, that often these bike tracks become real community hubs on the weekend. What's that? Teach them how to ride scooters?
No, carry on with your answer.
Oh, this will be a good one.
That's it. That's the end of that. That's the end of that. Is there another supplementary?
Yes, Mr Speaker. Supplementary question.
That house is a bit quiet. Can I just say to the government side, as much as you might think the minister needs assistance to answer a question, he doesn't.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister, what success has the Bikes in School program had?
Mr Speaker, since 2010, this is pretty awesome. Since 2010, more than 400 schools have got on board with Bikes in Schools. Thousands of kids have learned how to practice safe biking skills. And I do want to thank Paul McCardle and the team at the Bike on New Zealand Charitable Trust. It's a very successful program, well loved by communities across the country, and I'm advised that the $3.5 million over the next couple of years will enable between 40 and 60 more schools to roll out bike tracks and bikes.
Supplementary question. Who will benefit from the Bikes in Schools program?
Well, Mr Speaker, it's tempting to make comments around policy wobbles this week, but what I will say is the most important people who will benefit from the Bikes in Schools program are our young kids who will learn how to ride a bike safely, and there's also a flow-on benefit to tradies in local communities who go out and do this very important work. Some of it's small work, but it's important work nonetheless.
Question number 6, the Honourable Willie Jackson. I'm just asking before you begin, can our audio people just take a look at the mics? There's quite a bit of foldback coming our way, just by way of a ringing sound. The Honourable Willie Jackson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister of Social Development and Employment, does she stand by her 50,000 job seeker reduction target?
The Honourable Louise Upston.
Mr Speaker, yes, I absolutely stand by that target. We know it's challenging, but our goal is to grow the economy and help more Kiwis into work, as we had seen welfare dependency balloon when we'd come into office. Our government won't lower our targets just because they're challenging. Despite global headwinds, more New Zealanders are moving off benefits and into jobs, over 20,000 last quarter alone. Through stronger case management, training and practical support, we're backing Kiwis to become work-ready, independent and part of our country's recovery and growth.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister, how many more job seekers are there now compared to when she came into office in November 2023?
Well, Mr Speaker, we have seen an increase in the number of people on the job seeker benefit, which is what we would expect. But the good news, Mr Speaker, is actually the unemployment rate has not gone up as high as Treasury forecast when those guys left office. We've seen it at 5.2%. It's much more, it's higher than we would like, but it is the 30-year average. But for every person who loses a job, this side of the House knows it's challenging. That's why we're not sitting on our laurels and we're doing everything we can to help them.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister, is it the case that she is now closer to adding 50,000 job seekers than she is to removing 50,000 job seekers? And if so, will she resign if the target is not met?
Well, Mr Speaker, as I've said in this House before, 50,000 is an ambitious target and not one that we will shy away from, because we know the enormous difference that work makes. When we came in, the figures were going the wrong way. It was forecast to peak in December. As I said, the unemployment rate actually isn't as high as was forecast when we came in, despite the challenges we've faced. Every single one of those 50,000 makes an enormous difference to them, their whānau, the community and our country, and that's why we're not shying away from the target.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister, how many of the 249 people who have lost their job recently in Tokoroa are now on job seekers?
Well, Mr Speaker, I'm really proud of the work that MSD is doing on the ground in Tokoroa and to be part of Project Phoenix. We are looking at supporting those workers immediately. So some have relocated, others have moved into other opportunities in town. And I really feel for the families that haven't lost their jobs just yet, but it is coming in the current weeks. And I would welcome that member joining Project Phoenix to help the efforts that we're doing on the ground on behalf of our community to support those who are in that very challenging position of either having lost or perhaps losing their jobs in the coming weeks.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister, what does she say to the South Waikato Mayor Gary Petley, who said the government doesn't give a toss about regional New Zealand and all that government crap they spin, it's all a smokescreen?
Well, Mr Speaker, I would just say that I've been working incredibly productively, not just with the Mayor and the Council, but also the local union, who values the work that I'm doing on the ground in the community. And as I say, if he's really worried about those workers, I'd invite him to join me.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister, what does she say to Gilbert Sydney, who was made redundant from Kinleith, found a job next door at the plywood plant, only to be made redundant from that job as well, who said, and I quote, "There's literally no jobs around, not locally. We literally have to travel like an hour and a half even to find a job." What does the Minister say to Gilbert Sydney?
Mr Speaker, I have met with many of those affected in Tokoroa and I know how challenging it is. What we are doing is making sure that the welfare system is far more proactive than it's ever been before. We've seen a 60% increase in the proactive engagements that MSD is having on the ground. 83,000 people left benefit into jobs in the last year, despite it being challenging. So we are not shying away from the challenge. 83,000 left benefit for jobs. 83,000. That's a good number.
Question number 7, Simon Court.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister for Children, what recent data has she seen on findings of harm in state care residences?
The Honourable Karen Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've seen the Oranga Tamariki Safety of Children in Care report, which for the first time ever in New Zealand showed a decrease in harm within secure residential placements. There has been a 14% reduction in findings of harm since 2024. Any harm, Mr. Speaker, is unacceptable, but it must be acknowledged that the significant program of work across the secure residences is seeing positive results. The introduction of standard operating practices, improved recruitment, training and programming, a refreshed induction process, among many other things, is resulting in improved safety and well-being for those in secure residential care.
Supplementary question. What other work has been undertaken to improve the safety and well-being in residences?
Mr. Speaker, in addition to the recruitment, training and induction for staff, additional investment in Budget 2025 for professionalisation of the workforce will build on this work and promote enhanced safety. This will ensure we have a confident and capable workforce with the skills necessary to work effectively with young people in secure residences. We have also committed to significant infrastructure upgrades at residences to make sure that they are safe and secure for young people, with this work getting underway before the end of the year. We've also invested in a leadership training for our team leaders and resident managers, as it is essential those at the top have the skills and capabilities to lead and ensure the culture in residences is one of safety, security and accountability.
Supplementary question. What does the data show about children and young people in return home placements?
Mr. Speaker, we must acknowledge both what is working and where there is still room for improvement. The data shows a disproportionately higher number of children and young people living into return or remain home placements experienced harm. These are placements where a child is in the legal custody of the Chief Executive, but have either returned to or remained in the care of their immediate family, usually parents. 13% of children in return or remain home placements had a finding of harm. This is one of the reasons why I have always said that the ultimate consideration in decision making about the child must be safety. While ideally every child would be safe in a safe and loving home with their parents, unfortunately we know this is not always possible. In these situations, the needs and the best interests of children must always come first, and I'll continue to advocate for that.
The Honourable Willow Jean Prime.
Mr. Speaker.
Have you got a question? Yes, you've been calling a question out most of the afternoon. Simon Court.
Speaker, supplementary. To the Minister, what else does the data show about findings of harm of children and young people in state care?
Mr. Speaker, I acknowledge that the latest Safety of Children in Care report shows that in the 12 months to the 31st of March 2025, there was an increase of 23 children and young people who had a finding of harm compared to the previous year. It is important to note that the majority of over 60% of this harm to children in care was not caused by the person that was responsible for their care. The harm was caused by someone else, be it another child or a wider family member not responsible for their care, or by an adult not related or known to them. Any harm to a child, whether in care or not in care, is not okay. And of course, this is something that I'm really concerned about, and that's the safety of children, and it will remain my top priority as Minister. At the same time, it is important to acknowledge where progress has been made, such as in residences, and recognise the hard work done by the frontline staff who are dealing with these issues every day.
Question number 8, Grant McCallum.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Associate Minister of Housing and asks, what recent announcements has he made on housing?
It's
my Honourable Tama Potok.
Earlier this week, I announced government support of $34 million for the Bissett Road development in Kaikohe within contractual arrangements, led by Ngāpuhi. This development will help deliver 100 affordable rental homes in Kaikohe. The investment shows iwi and Crown and Mahitahi are working together in Kaikohe, making it the largest community-led affordable housing project in the far north, home of hard-working MP Grant McCullum. It's a great example of iwi Crown partnership in action, Ngāpuhi leading the project, investing in their own resources, and the government backing them to deliver at scale.
Good answer. Supplementary. How does this benefit the people of Kaikohe?
E te maanga o te whare. Northland or Te Tai Tokerau has some of the highest levels of housing need in the country due to a range of pressures. This investment directly addresses those challenges with 100 new affordable rentals. And all homes will be retained as affordable rentals for at least 25 years, with rents capped at 80% of market levels. Ngāpuhi will also provide wraparound whānau ora and hauora support for tenants. In addition, over 100 full-time equivalent roles are expected during construction, supporting local jobs and apprentices like Tai, who I met on Monday up there in Guys Road in Kaikohe. We're creating real homes, local jobs and opportunities that last alongside, with and for Māori and all New Zealanders.
Supplementary. When will the homes be ready?
E te maanga o te whare. Civil works are expected to start in November 2025 with the full development of 100 homes expected to be completed by mid-2027.
Supplementary. How does this fit in with the government's commitment to partnering with iwi to deliver Māori housing?
E te maanga o te whare. Since December 2023, $426 million has been approved in 3 tranches for Māori-led delivery of around 1,000 homes. The new homes are a range of papakainga housing, owner-occupied housing and affordable rentals. And projects are focused, for the most part, where housing pressure is the highest, such as Te Tai Tokerau or Northland, Rotorua and Te Tai Rāwhiti to the east coast, with suitable typologies and directly addressing shortages for kaumātua, single parents and young couples. Through partnerships with iwi and Māori housing providers like Waikato Tainui, Ngāti Rehia and Ngāti Rangi, hundreds of homes are underway, including some of one of the members over there is calling out father-in-law's brother. Partnering with iwi and Māori organisations will help deliver housing to support stronger whānau and stronger communities, and will ensure that Māori solutions remain central to how we address housing need across Aotearoa New Zealand.
Question number 9, the Honourable Willow Jean Prime.
Tēnā koe te maanga o te whare. My question is to the Minister of Education and asks, does she stand by her statement, quote, "It's so disappointing that they are playing politics, that they are choosing to go on strike," unquote, and will she meet with the predicted over 40,000 striking educators to address their concerns?
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Erica Stanford.
Yes, I am very disappointed with the unions following their choice to strike. They haven't prioritised bargaining in good faith, and teachers, parents and students are paying the price. The member has asked the question in a very odd way. Of course, I can't meet with 40,000 people. However, I am meeting with members to address their concern during the Curriculum Roadshow, where we are unpacking the curriculum, explaining the supports, resources and PLD available and explaining how they can implement the reforms in their classrooms. And these have been the concerns that the unions have raised, and it's confounding that the unions have advised their members to boycott the very events that their members were calling for. But due to the professionalism of the sector, we've had full events with engaged leaders who see the value of the support that we're providing.
Supplementary. Does she stand by her statement that she has, quote, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of friends, unquote, and is that more than the 40,000 educators who are striking?
Well, Mr Speaker, I do stand by that statement because the member is referring to a question that she asked yesterday about my Curriculum Roadshow, and there are hundreds and hundreds of educators up and down the country who are coming to the Curriculum Roadshow, and hundreds more watching online. And I would advise that member that she would have more friends if she answered her text messages.
Supplementary. Does she stand by her statement that Sir Brian Roche, quote, is trying desperately to negotiate in good faith, unquote, when he's in charge of a public service commission that ran anti-strike attack ads?
Firstly, Mr Speaker, in relation to Sir Brian Roche, you can see from the emails that were released under the OIA in the last 48 hours that there is significant frustration on his part when he is trying to negotiate in good faith and get unions to the table. You can see, of course, in one regard where he has had extraordinary success with the Primary Principals Collective Bargaining Union, with a union that was prepared not to go on strike, to turn up to negotiations, to be open and transparent, to put forward what they wanted to bargain on and to come to a settlement, Mr Speaker. And the ads that I have seen are not attack ads. They are simply information ads that the public should have the access to information on.
Supplementary. Why does she choose to undermine unions rather than actually listen to their concerns?
Great question.
Mr Speaker, I'm not undermining the unions, I'm just pointing out that they're not acting in good faith. But in fact, of course, there is one union that is acting in good faith and has settled. That's the Primary Principals Collective Bargaining Union. And I would make the point again that their membership grows by the day because principals can see that their own unions are not acting in good faith and they want to settle.
Why did she claim that unions are bullying when it's educators who voted to strike?
Mr Speaker, those comments that I made this morning about unions who were bullying was in relation to comments that I have, or conversations that I've had with teachers and principals who have spoken out in the media with a different view and then had enormous pressure put on them by the unions. And in fact, that was backed up by a text message from a principal that I received after I made...
Stop. Start the answer again and people will listen quietly.
Thank you. Mr Speaker, I made those comments in relation to a question that I was asked this morning when the presenter, Ryan Bridge, made the comment that perhaps principals and teachers weren't speaking out because they felt like they were bullied, and I agreed with him. And that was from a conversation that I've had with teachers and principals who have come out in the media with a different perspective on things and had enormous pressure put on them by the union. And I would also say that that was backed up by a text message from a principal that I received after I made that comment saying that what my comments were so true. And the word "so" had about 5 O's on it.
Supplementary. Will she apologise to the education sector for promising pay rises when she was in opposition and failing to deliver them now that she's the minister?
Well, Mr Speaker, if the unions were prepared to be at the table, like the Primary Principals Collective Bargaining Union, and come to a settlement, then they would find that there are pay rises on the table. Unfortunately, one of the unions hasn't even bothered to put the offer to their members before striking. Mr Speaker, if the unions were at the table in good faith, they would find that we are there ready to negotiate.
Ricardo Mendes March, question 10.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Health. Do nurses have safe staffing levels? If so, what evidence does he have to demonstrate that?
The Honourable Simeon Brown.
Mr Speaker, as I said yesterday, yes. Since coming into office, this government has added around 2,000 more nurses to the public health system compared to 2023, alongside hundreds of additional doctors. That's backed by a record additional $16.68 billion of investment in health over 3 budgets. I'm advised that patient safety measures such as in-hospital deaths, surgical site infections and in-hospital falls have been stable or improved over the last 5 years. Another indicator is hospital capacity. While bed numbers have increased by 175 over the past 3 years, the number of nurses employed has grown by more than 3,000 during that same time period, strengthening the level of care available to patients. Health New Zealand is committed to safe care. That's why we're growing the health workforce and holding the system accountable through clear health targets so patients get the care they need when they need it.
Supplementary. Is it correct that the Care and Capacity Demand Management System data, a tool to measure actual patient need presenting in our hospitals, shows that nurses are facing unsafe working conditions?
Well, Mr Speaker, as the Chief Clinical Officer at Health New Zealand, Richard Sullivan, says, the CCDM system contains moment-in-time operational data and is not a direct proxy for unsafe or safe staffing. As Health New Zealand has said publicly, using this tool in isolation to claim that wards are understaffed and unsafe is misleading, and actually there is a range of factors that need to be taken into account, including those factors that I referred to in my primary answer, such as in-hospital deaths, surgical site infections, in-hospital falls, which have been stable or improved over the last 5 years, and also, as I said, hospital capacity. While bed numbers have increased by 175 over the past 3 years, the number of nurses employed has grown by more than 3,000 during that same time period.
Who is correct? The Minister of Health, who said that nurses have safe working conditions, or Jade Power, a registered nurse who said, quote, "Many nurses work past their shifts unpaid because there's no one to hand over to. Breaks are missed, exhaustion is growing, and compassion fatigue is setting in. It's unsustainable."
Well, Mr. Speaker, I acknowledge the hard work of our nursing staff and our doctors and all of the healthcare professionals who work incredibly hard in our healthcare system. But I would also point to the facts, and I think we have to take into account the facts as put to me by the Chief Clinical Officer of Health New Zealand, who looks at a range of factors when it comes to safety in our hospitals, including measures such as in-hospital deaths, surgical site infections and in-hospital falls, which have been stable or improving in the last 5 years. Hospital capacity, which shows that there's been, while 175 additional beds have been built, the number of nurses employed has grown by over 3,000 during that same time period. So there's a range of factors we take into account to look at patient safety in our health system, and it's good to see the increased resourcing going into the front line.
Is he saying that the count list of nurses who have raised concerns around unsafe working conditions are wrong?
What I'm saying is that there is a range of factors that are taken into account, and the Chief Clinical Officer of Health New Zealand has been explaining that. And I also point to the comments by the CEO of Health New Zealand, Dale Bramley, who says that Dr. Dale Bramley, who says one of the biggest clinical safety risks in our hospitals right now for patients is waiting times. And we inherited long waiting times, and unions which strike continue to extend those waiting times for patients.
Question number 11, Carl Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Mental Health and asks, what recent announcements has he made about crisis recovery cafes?
Mr. Speaker,
The Honourable Matt Ducey.
Our mental health plan is focused on delivering results, faster access to support, more frontline workers and a better crisis response. Recently, I opened Whanganui's new Crisis Recovery Cafe, the first of 6 cafes being rolled out by the government across the country. The new Crisis Recovery Cafe has been delivered by Balance Aotearoa with government backing to bring the idea to life. Whether it's your child, a friend or a family member reaching out for support, we're committed to ensuring support is there.
Supplementary. What is a Crisis Recovery Cafe?
Mr. Speaker, one of my top priorities is to improve access to mental health support so we can ensure all Kiwis have the help they need when and where it's needed. Crisis cafes are peer-delivered service and provide a safe, relaxed, non-clinical setting for people who are in distress and need to talk to someone face-to-face. Sitting in an ED or clinical settings in time of mental distress can be a very challenging place for people. Crisis recovery cafes provide an alternative, welcoming place to go when people need support. To deliver a better crisis response, we want to ensure there is someone to call, someone to respond and somewhere to go.
Supplementary. What other areas are receiving government support for crisis recovery cafes?
Mr. Speaker, our mental health plan is working with over 80% of people seen within 3 weeks for specialist services and the frontline mental health workforce growing around 10% since coming into office. Earlier this year I announced funding for the Wellington City Mission's Crisis Cafe as part of the government's Mental Health Community Innovation Fund. The funding boost allowed the mission to scale up to 24 hours. Tomorrow I'll visit Whakatane's Resilience Cafe, who with their funding boost will extend their opening hours, employ more peer support workers and double their capacity. No matter where you live, this government is committed to ensuring that timely support is there.
Always there. Supplementary. What feedback has he seen on the government's rollout of crisis recovery cafes?
Mr. Speaker, this government is not just focused on ensuring the right support is in place to treat mental health issues, but we're focused strongly on preventing Kiwis from getting to that point. Tony said, awesome for Whanganui, top work by the government. We have to be open to new ideas to support those with mental illness, and this seems like it has huge potential. Bobby said, it's an amazing experience there for everyone who uses it, Absolutely no bad stigma or to be made to feel bad. I really think the entire concept is somewhat magical. Mr. Speaker, behind every one of these new services are hundreds of Kiwis now getting the support they need.
Question 12, the Honourable Ginny Anderson.
Koe e te mangai o te whare. My question is to the Minister for Economic Growth. Does she agree with Nicola Willis that a national-led government, quote, will rebuild the economy to reduce the cost of living and help Kiwis get ahead, end quote?
The Honourable Nicola Willis.
Well, Mr. Speaker, yes. And members of the House will be interested to know that I made that statement in 2023 in a press release titled Labour in Economic La-La Land Planning More Taxes. The more things change, the more they stay the same, Mr. Speaker. And of course, at that time, inflation was running at 5.6%. It's now been back in band for more than 5 quarters. Food price inflation was running at 8.8%. It is now down to 4.6%. And the official cash rate had been rapidly rising, reaching a peak of 5.5. It is now down to 2.5. Mr. Speaker, of course, also since then, the government has delivered tax relief to more than 1.9 million households. Tax relief opposed by Labour.
Supplementary. How does a pay offer for teachers, firefighters and nurses that does not keep up with the cost of living help Kiwis to get ahead?
Mr. Speaker, I reject the assertion in that question.
How can the estimated 100,000 Kiwis who have walked off the job today get ahead when they are overworked and undervalued by her government?
Well, Mr. Speaker, our government values greatly the work by nurses, teachers, firefighters and others on the public payroll. And what we would say to them is that they would be able to get a pay rise much more rapidly if their union went back to the bargaining table instead of playing politics.
Why is her government handing Crown board directors pay rises of up to 80%, while teachers and nurses are struggling to cope with the cost of living crisis?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I find this an interesting question because I understand that the member's party is quite enamoured by Temasek, which of course is an interesting model for running Crown assets. Temasek is distinguished by a couple of things, members. One of them is that it often sells assets and then purchases others. And another factor is that it pays its directors well because it wants the companies to be run well. Our government came in to a number of basket cases in terms of Crown entity management, including Kāinga Ora and ACC, and we are determined to run those services and assets better on behalf of taxpayers.
Are teachers, doctors, prison staff, firefighters wrong to ask for safe working conditions and pay that keeps up with the cost of living?
Obviously not.
Is she surprised that 200 New Zealanders leave our shores each day when her government refuses to pay hard-working frontline workers what they're worth?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I would just like to share with that member a statistic which I certainly find interesting, and it is this: that in the 21 months of data since this government came into office, annual net departures of New Zealand citizens increased by 5,800. This contrasts with the 21 months prior to that, under the previous government, and through which well, listen up, Penny Henare, because annual net departures of New Zealand citizens increased by 38,000.
Sorry. We're going to start again, and not having that barracking across the House.
Let me summarise my answer, which is this. Under the last 21 months of the government of which that member was in the Cabinet, annual net departures of New Zealand citizens increased by 38,000. In the 21 months since this government has been in office, that number was 5,800. So our record stacks up better than yours on that and many, many other things, including the fact we include numbers in our policies.
That concludes oral questions. I call on Government Order of the Day number 1 and 2.
Parliament Bill, Committee Stage. Land Transport Management Time of Use Charging Amendment Bill, Committee Stage.
Members should be leaving the House quietly while we have the committee changeover.
Just yell out when you're ready, give me the nod and we'll get started.
Members, the House is in committee on the Parliament Bill and the Land Transport Time of Use Charging Amendment Bill. We will start with the Parliament Bill. We come first to Part 1. Part 1 is the debate on clauses 3 to 8, preliminary provisions and Schedule 1. The question